Hello. Now we're going to look at the idea of percentiles. And percentiles are just looking at how far we are through a data set. Now, where have we come across that idea before? Well, with the idea of median and with quartiles. So what we already understand about median and quartiles will guide us into this idea of percentiles. So when we talked about quartiles, and if we remember back to like our interquartile range or our median work, if we were in the first quartile or if we were at the first quartile in our data set, we were 1/4 of the way through our data set. So we ordered our data from smallest to biggest, and then 1/4 of the way through our data was the first quartile. The second quartile was the median when we were 2/4 of the way or half of the way through our data set, and the third quartile, Q3, was where we were 3/4 of the way through our data set, again when we had arranged it from smallest to biggest. All the percentiles do is generalize that. So what percentage of the way are we through our data set? So instead of being 1/4, 2/4, or 3/4, we could be 33% of the way through our data set, or we could be 95% of the way through our data set. So it's simply a generalization of what we already understand with quartiles and with median. And if we can see that, then the rules for this become a little bit more transparent. So we have let's give an example of here. If you are at the 70th percentile, so capital P, little 70 for the 70th percentile in height in a class, that means that 70% of the class would be shorter than you, or 30% of the class would be taller than you. So the idea of our percentile is you'd line everyone up in the class from shortest to tallest. And if you were at the 70th percentile, that means that 70% of the class would be shorter than you. You would be 70% of the way along in our queue from shortest to tallest. Now, let's put this into practice in a question. We have the maths tests results for a class. Find the 50th percentile, the 70th percentile, and what percentile is 42%, the result 42% in this class. Now, I'm specifically giving you an example of test results because this would be a common way that if we might get things jumbled in a class. These are percentage results, but these are data points. So this is 56%, but it has nothing to do with how far that data point is along in our data set when we list them from smallest to biggest. So we are talking in our percentiles about how far along we are in our list when we are listing our data from smallest to biggest. It has nothing to do with percentage test results. I'm deliberately giving you an example where we have the contrast between these two things. So if we remember our work in median and quartiles, we know, and as we've talked about, we're going to need to take this jumble of data points and list them from smallest to biggest. A very common job that we have with our data points. And the way that we keep track of this as best we can is that we are going to underline each of our points as we come to them. So we have 14 is our first data point, and I'm going to try with a small data set like this, I'm actually going to try and write them from smallest to biggest underneath my original data set. We won't necessarily be able to do that in an exam because they might give us a bigger data set, but we will try to keep everything as structured as possible. So as I go through my lists, 14 is the smallest number. Next one is 17, so I write that down. Next one, I think, is 23. And I'm going to underline these as I go. I can see 23, and then the next one, there's no other 23, so my next biggest one is 24. I'm going to come back when I've listed all these out. So I have now listed my data set from smallest to biggest. The smallest result, or the smallest percentage that a person got in this test, was 14%, and the highest result was 70%. So we can see this is quite a spread out data set. If we were talking about the range, then we'd be getting 70 minus 14, and we're going to be looking in this case at our medians and our percentiles, building on that idea. So Now we've got everything smallest to biggest. We underlined all of our terms. If we got repeated, say if we've gotten two 24s, we'd still write two 24s in here. Every data point gets repeated as many times as it appeared in the original data set. Now, once we've gotten to this point, we're now able to start answering our questions. So, question 1. What grade is at the 50th percentile? I've deliberately given this one because what is the 50th percentile? Well, it's 50% of the way through our data set, so long as we've ordered from smallest to biggest. Well, 50% is a half. So we might be able to link the fact that what we're really looking for then is just the median. Now this is deliberate. The idea here is percentiles look a little bit strange, but they are simply a generalization of what we understand with the median and quartiles. Now, let's put this into practice. 50% of the way through our data set, well, that means we need to know how big our data set is. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We've got 12 people in this class. So that means that we are going to get 50% of the way through 12 people. Well, that's just 6 people. That's going to be 6 people should be how many people we have gone through to get up to the 50th percentile. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we want 6 people to have gotten a grade lower than us. Now, when we got this for the median, we knew that if we ended up with an even number of data points like this, that we had to get the average of the data points on either side. There is no middle term effectively here. The middle is where my dashed line is, in between 42 and 46% for our result. So that means that we are going to have to get the mean of, or the average of, our 6th and 7th data point, just like we did for the median. It's essentially all this is. So that means we're going to get the 50th percentile then is going to be 42 plus 46, the 6th and 7th position, all over 2. So we end up with 44. So 44% would be the 50th percentile. If a person got 44% in the result, they would be at the 50th percentile. Now this is true in general. If we get a whole number here for our percentile, that means that we're going to need to get the average of this term in our data set and the next term. So I'm going to write that out as a general rule. So just like if we were dealing with our first quartile, our third quartile, or our median, if we end up in between two values, effectively, if we get a whole number for our percentage of the way through here, then we have to get the average of this term in our list and the next data point in our list. Just the same as what we did for the median, or if we were dealing with the first quartile or the second quartile. Now, let's get P70, the point that would be 70% of the way through our list. So that doesn't have any special name. That's just going to be 70% of the way through our 12 people in our list. And that gives us 8.4. So 8.4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're 8.4. Where am I trying to? We're somewhere around here. That's how far into our list we would have to be basically at the 70th percentile. That 70% of the people would have gotten a grade lower than us. Now, if we get a non-integer, non-whole number value, you simply go up to the next number in our list. So we're going to go up to the 9th number in our list, because that means that an entire 70% will be below. So this is the 9th number in our list here. So if we go up to 53%, that means that at a comfortable 70% of the people will have gotten a result lower than us, which is what we want for the 70th percentile. That 70% of the people in the group got lower than this grade. So that means that we just have to say that P70 is going to be equal to 53%. So we have to think in terms of what are we aiming for. We want to know when what grade would we have to get so that 70% of this group got lower than us. That's generally the way we need to think about these. And then finally, if we got 42%, what percentile did we get? So then we have to go to our list and we say, well, 42% is here. 42% is here. How many people got a grade lower than that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people got a grade lower than that. So what percentage of the way through our group are we at that? Well, that's going to be 5 people out of a group of 12. And we want to turn that into a percentage, which ends up being 41.67%. So that means that 41.67% of the people got a grade lower than us, but we need to work with our whole number percentiles essentially. So if we went up to 42%, we would be slightly overestimating where we were. So we would actually say that we were at the 41st percentile. So 42%, a grade of 42% puts us at the 41st percentile, because we would have 41% of the group would have gotten a grade lower than us. And that is what we need for percentiles. Again, merely an extension of what we already understand for getting the median and the quartiles, first quartile, second quartile, third quartile already.